Well, good afternoon folks, and welcome to another review video. I said I'd try and get this in before the weekend. The purpose of today's video is really a test flight. It's a bit of a test really. FlyInside, who have released the Bell 47G2 helicopter for Flight Simulator 2020, have now released a float version. So today's flight is to test this float version, not only flying it but also to see that we can actually land on water. So we're here at Hamilton Island Airport off the coast of Australia here. It's just around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're going to be heading out to REEFWORLD on the reef, which is about a 40-minute flight out there. And those of you who know the REEFWORLD scenery created by Auscene will know that you've got some nice little chips and some landing pads and things out there. We've also added a freeware addition to the scenery, which you can get from flightsim.to, and I'll put the details up of that file, which just adds another ship and landing pad and some bits and pieces just to enhance the same scenery. So we'll take off and head out over the island and head off towards the reef. I won't be keeping you sitting here for 40 minutes. Basically we'll do the takeoff and fly out over the Hamilton Island towards the ocean, and I'll explain a little bit more about what you're going to see in this video. So all looking good. Fuel's on board. Let's get airborne and let's get going. So we lift off, cross the runway, and then backtrack across to the north, climbing all the way, and then head out across the Hamilton Island, over the ocean, and head towards REEFWORLD. It's about a 40-minute flight. Cross the harbour and start to turn right onto our heading as we climb up to around 2,000 feet for the trip. So we're going to get up to about 2,000 feet, and now we're heading out on course towards REEFWORLD, which is actually about a 40-minute flight, and it's on a heading of about 030, 020, something like that. But I've got another map going with me, so that's okay. So what can we expect from this trip? Okay, the idea is to test fly this helicopter, take it on this 40-minute trip out to REEFWORLD. First of all, to land on water, make sure that it actually does, and then secondly, to attempt to land on a couple of the pads at REEFWORLD, just make sure all that works. I have done some initial testing, and I've found some little anomalies that are mainly concerned with the skid version of this helicopter. And along the way here, once we get clear of the islands here, I will show you some pictures and start to explain a little bit about what we've seen. What I can say is this aircraft flies really quite well. I've flown it a couple of times now, and although I'm still developing my helicopter skills to the point where they could be really good, for me it flies really wonderfully. It's great. I have done a couple of water landings, and I've done a couple of land landings too. If you've recently looked at my video from Kuwait. When I did the scenery test at Kuwait, we used the helicopter in the second part to explore the city, and that went really well. So this is version 1.80 of the FlyInside helicopter. It's the latest version that's out, and I am in touch with the developer, so we can test this and have a look at this. And obviously REEFWORLD Scenery is the perfect place to test it. So as I've said, we're going to go out there, we're going to do a landing on water, and then we're going to attempt a landing, or a couple of landings on a couple of the pads. And then I'll show you the main part of the little add-on scenery file, details I'm going to put up in a minute, so you can see what that looks like, and the helicopter pad that's on the boat there, and we'll attempt to land on that. So meanwhile, just enjoy the scenery on the way out here as we head out towards the ocean. So here we are then, around about 2,000 feet. We're pretty much on course, heading out over the ocean. Just got the little islands here to clear, and everything's looking quite good so far. So I'm going to start by showing you a couple of pictures that you can look at, where I've got the helicopter actually landing on various pads, so you can see that it actually works. And as I said, this video is partially for the benefit of the developer, who obviously is going to look at this and see what's going to go on. I'm also going to pass this on to Auscene, the developer of the REEFWORLD Scenery, because the anomalies I found, I can't really decide really whether it's the scenery or whether it's the helicopter. But what I can say is that the float helicopter works fine. It lands on all the pads and it lands on the water, and you'll see that when we get there. So to start with, then I'm going to show you a few pictures that I've taken, and then I'm going to show you a little bit of video as well. So to begin with, here's a graphic showing the REEFWORLD scenery. Obviously the green circles denote the landable places where you can land both the skid and float version. Note that the skid version will sink into the pad, but it lands there. So you've got 1, 2 and 3 positions. Start position actually from the menu is only available for the float version and not for the skid version. The red circles show you places where you can't actually start using the skid version from the menu, but you can select them using the float version, but you will either end up in the air or on the water. And lastly, note that the single sloop, ramp number 4, right way east of REEFWORLD, this can be landed on by skid or floats, but you can't select it from the menu because it institutes a crash. So there you go. So here's an earlier screenshot showing you the float helicopter that's in use in this video at the moment, landing on water. As you can see, I did this earlier, and it's just a shot to show you that actually it can do that, and we're going to attempt it live in the video for you to see as well. So here's another shot I took earlier showing you the float version landing successfully on the pad opposite the blue helicopter. So once again, just to show you that it actually does work, and possibly one of my better landings. I'm almost right in the H there. So again, here's another shot. This time I'm landing on the twin pad, and this is pretty much right in the middle of the H, so I'm quite pleased about that. And there you can also see one of the animated birds, which is one of the nice features of this scenery. Now here's what happened when I managed to select the pad number 4 in the menu to place the helicopter on. It actually didn't sit on the pad, it crashed through, and after about 5 or 6 seconds the simulator crashed itself. You can land on this pad, and you'll see that in the video at the end when I do this, but it seems that even with the float version you can't select it from the start menu as a place to take off from. So here's a short video showing you what happened when I tried to land on pad 2. Now actually this was okay, but this is with the skid version. As you can see, my approach isn't too bad, a little bit jerky, but we're getting onto the pad. There again you can see the birds, and touchdown. So again, this is with the skid version, not the float version, and you get to see I made a reasonable landing there, which was not too bad at all. Let's have a look at the angle slightly differently, and there you can see the skids have actually gone into the ground or gone into the pad. Now this happened a lot before, but again it's landable. You can land on it and it stays, it doesn't crash the sim. There's another view, and again you can see our favourite seagull doing his best to keep out of the way of the rotor blades. But there's a good little example for you there of what happens with the skid version in this scenery. Welcome back, folks. As you can see, we're approaching the reef, and dead ahead of us is the main sort of reef world scenery, as it were. We're going to bring off the power and just drop some altitude. And do a little flyby. So as you can see, we've got the kind of utility luxury boat here in front of us. Then we've got the cruiser attached to another luxury boat there in the middle, and a little further you've got some little ferry boats that ferry the people from the helicopter pads onto the cruisers. There we go, really nice. Some speed here. So the first things to do is to come round and just do a landing touchdown on the water, so you can see that the float version actually does work. Again, my landings aren't brilliant, so we'll go up and get as close to that boat as we can. And do a little land, try and do a little landing next to it. Then we'll lift off the water and we'll attempt to land on the pad. Get into the harbour here. Just lose a little, gently lose a little altitude. So we're going to get some spray as we touch down. And there we are. So there we are, landed on the water, everything works okay, and she floats in the water. Very, very nice. So let's take off again. Go over the top of this so you can get a bit of a nice look at it. Note the birds. It's a really nice scenery actually. Now we're going to come round and we'll attempt to landing on that double pad there. So, successful landing. Okay, there you are, not quite inside the H, but all works well. So we've done a water landing and we've done a pad landing, so the float helicopter works well. So there's a bird about to get chewed up by the tail rotor. Right, now we're going to head out towards the east, towards Heart Reef, and attempt to landing on the add-on scenery boat. First of all, we'll go across the top of the two pleasure sloops there. As we get some transitional lift, you can see what's going on there. Very nice. It's a lovely little scenery here. It's a pity that we've got one or two little problems. I hope we can manage to solve them. So they're in the distance now, just coming directly in front of us. About now, just to the left there across the reef, you can see well, in fact it's just disappeared. It's really slightly in the distance there. Is the other little scenery product. So we'll try and stay at around about 300 feet as we make our way across the reef. So quite pleased so far. Managed a successful takeoff from Hamilton Island, and I managed to navigate the 40-minute flight or so out to the islands here, to the reef. Made 2 landings, one on water, one on the pad. Now let's see if I can get this thing down on the ship. We'll come in slow so you can have a little look at the scenery. You've got a ship with a landing pad and some bits and pieces, and some people with some little skis and things down by the side of the boat as well. And there are 1 or 2 little sailing boats around too in this scenery. As I said, at the end of the video I shall put up a graphic showing you what you can select and what you can't select so far, and also details of the add-on scenery that goes with this, which is freeware, which you can get on flightsim.to. Down to about 100 feet, so there on the right you can see the single sloop where there are landing issues. Well, certainly there are issues when you try to position on that pad. And dead ahead of us here you can see the add-on scenery of the ship with a helicopter pad at the back there. A couple of sailing boats there too. Looks really nice. So we're going to come round and try and attempt to land on that pad. Well, I've done it. Let's see how well I managed it. Well, that's not too bad. I got close. I managed to land, and as you can see the helicopter is perfectly okay. Lands on there fine, no problem at all. So a quick look at some little bits and pieces on this scenery. So there you can see a couple of people. One guy with his scuba gear on. A little jet bike there, or wet bike I believe they call them, and a very nice lady in a swimsuit. As you can see, all looks quite nice, beautifully done, beautifully modelled. And there you've got a young lady on the top, we've got a car, and we've got a speedboat attached to one side. And just a little look there towards the front of the boat for you. There's a close-up shot of the yacht there, and a close-up shot of the other yacht, which actually has a guy there at the wheel. Right, so what I'm going to do now is lift off here and attempt to land on that single pad. We did have issues before, but I believe it can be done with the floats. Except you can't actually position on that pad, but we should be able to touch down on it, assuming I've got the skill to do so. So here we go. not far off the water, so we're getting some spray. But here the idea is to try and drop onto this pad. So there we are, we've managed to land on it. So let's have a look at the outside view. So there we go, the float version of the helicopter manages to land on all available pads, and she lands on the water as well. Great folks, so thank you very much for joining me in this quick short test flight and review. So as I said, this is the Reef World scenery. It's also the small addition that gives you the boat and bits and pieces there you can see to the left. And this has been a test of the new FlyInside Bell 47G helicopter. This is version 1.8, the latest version that has a float option. And as you can see, you can use it here out at Reef World perfectly okay. There are issues with the skid version still, but all looks good. So I'm going to leave a graphic and some detailed information for you at the end of this video, and I'd just like to say thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next video. I'll be doing some reviews next week. So bye for now. This is Lee, your virtual airline pilot, in this case flying a helicopter. Thank you very much for joining me, and you guys take care. Bye bye now.